Chick-fil-A.
What did you learn on the trip?
Not much.
Answer that one again.
What did you learn on the trip, Andrew?
Nothing.
Oh my god.
What was the funniest moment?
When Steve said, "Mom," in the store, and he was so loud with it.
And if you had the chance, would you do the trip again?
Yes.
Hey, Andrew.
Hey.
What was your favorite memory of our trip?
I don't think I have like one specific favorite memory. This whole trip was awesome altogether.
And what did you learn this week?
Well, I learned how to paint and lead scrape better than I didn't know how to lead scrape, but I learned how to paint better than I used to. And I learned how awesome and crazy all the leaders that came are. So.
Hey. Thanks.
Danielle Lee, please go to Cardinal 4 for correction.
Yeah, what was the funniest moment this week?
Funniest moment was probably when Lorenzo started dancing like a stripper.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
And if you had a chance to do a trip like this again, would you do it?
Definitely.
Oh, let's hear your best.
Mom!
What was your favorite moment?
My favorite moment is when Steve whined like a baby and said "Mom."
What was your funniest thing that happened?
When we took pictures with statues,
What did you learn?
I learned how to lead scrape.
Would you do it again?
Yes, definitely. Mom.
What was your favorite memory?
I think exploring the French Quarter, definitely.
The beignets were really good.
The food in general, it was really good.
What was the funniest thing that happened?
Andrew and Lindsay surprised me by pretending to make out, and I turned around and it looked really real, and they just started laughing, and so I started laughing. Although it wasn't really that funny, but then it got funny.
It was funny to me.
What did you learn?
Patience. A lot of patience.
I learned that I'm very, very blessed.
Let's hear your best.
Would you do it again?
Absolutely.
Right. So, tell us your favorite memory of the week.
Okay, just walking around New Orleans, just seeing the culture, having the food.
Cool.
It was cool that they had a lot of just like live jazz bands and stuff, but just on like every other corner basically.
I kind of like the satisfaction of seeing the house progress and then all the cool things on the streets of the French Quarter.
Nice. And tell me something that you learned this week.
I learned that I can go out my comfort zone because I've never done something like this before, and I've never done lead scraping before, so that's new.
I learned how to make a lead containment facility. You know, keep
A
it
fort?
all. Yeah, a little fort, like a sweat lodge.
Okay.
It's really hot in Louisiana. That's what I learned. Very
Yes.
hot.
Funny.
Funniest?
Yeah, what was the funniest moment?
Okay, well, I have two. They're both about Lorenzo. One was when, because he moved into our room with Riley and I, and he was sleeping on the floor, and we're waking up to go to breakfast, and then he stood up and he slipped right off his bed and fell, and that was funny. And then the other one, he was sleeping in the hallway, and it was dead silent. We're just laying against the wall, and he spazzed out of nowhere, and his legs like kicked up in the air, and yeah.
I had a dream I was falling, so it just.
What's your funniest moment?
I don't know. just all the conversations we had late at night, it just was collectively just funny.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Was it the last dinner? Whatever. I don't even remember what we were talking about, but we were all just cracking up, dying at the dinner table.
Oh, that, yeah.
Something happened.
Yeah, I don't remember what we were talking about, but it was really funny. No, I want to talk about it.
you.
Okay, last
Sucks to
question.
do.
Riley, if you
Yeah.
had a chance to do something like this again, would you do it?
Yeah, totally.
Lorenzo?
Yeah.
Curtis?
Yeah.
Awesome. Anything else you want to tell me?
Riley spilled chocolate milk this morning too. That was funny.
Hey,
All right, guys, let me hear your very best.
I don't want to.
Give me your best mom.
Mom.
Mom, my drink is cold.
Mom, I'm tired. Mom, he touched me.
No, I didn't. I'm not touching her.
What was this?
I said, hey, it's so good to be back home again.
Hi, I'm Katie. So this last July, my youth group and I had the honor of traveling to New Orleans to help rebuild homes after Hurricane Katrina. But before I tell our story, I want to thank this church for all of the financial and emotional support we were given for this trip. We couldn't have gotten there without your help. So my job is to talk about the travel days and how we got there. So the build-up to this trip was challenging, but the actual process of traveling to Louisiana was an absolute nightmare. Everyone met in the church, at the church parking lot on July 5th at 6 a.m., still super groggy from celebrating the 4th of July the night before. Despite being a group of teenagers accustomed to sleeping past noon, we were so excited to finally be on our way down south. At PDX, we loaded up on sugary Starbucks beverages and McDonald's breakfast sandwiches and boarded our flight to Seattle. This plane ride was a little shaky. The plane itself was tiny, so any gusts of wind we encountered had us gripping our armrests and praying to the heavens. We landed after 45 minutes of anxiety, and we were thankful that the worst of the trip was over, or so we thought. Our layover in Seattle was short, and since us hungry teenagers ate about 6 meals a day, we raced through the airport in search of meals. We settled on some greasy Italian food and some Wendy's, and scarfed it all down on our next plane before it took off. Big mistake. Now, if there's one thing we should have known, it's that New Orleans is in a humid and stormy part of the United States, especially since the whole reason we were going there was because of a storm. The first 3/4 of our flight were glorious. We were all sharing candy, coloring in coloring books, listening to music, having a great time. As we neared Louisiana, however, we started to experience some turbulence. No biggie, we handled the shakiness earlier that day just fine. We just kept our eyes fixed on the ground outside and laughed nervously as the pilot apologized for the bad conditions. The shakiness cleared and we were relieved, but then it started up again. We soon learned that whenever we saw clouds outside our windows, that we needed to hold on to something right away and start praying. Now, some turbulence is fun. It's like a little ride at Disneyland, just a couple, Now, who here has experienced bad turbulence before? That's not fun at all. Some of us were unfazed, some of us were nervous, some of us honestly thought the plane was going down. Some of us even lost our lunches. Greasy food and a Starbucks macchiato before a roller coaster ride was a very bad move. We continued to watch outside our windows and eventually saw our runway. Yes, God had answered our prayers. We were in Louisiana. We're going to land. We're going to kiss the ground when we reach it. We braced ourselves for landing, but it never happened. Surprised, we watched out the window, seeing the world get smaller and smaller again. The plane ride from hell was going to continue. Shh, this is your pilot speaking. The weather conditions outside prohibit us from landing at the moment. We're going to circle back around and try again. Queasy and shaken up, we had no choice but to pray for landing soon. We circled back around, which took about 20 minutes, and we retraced our steps. back through the clouds of turbulence. This wasn't just like a few shakes here and there. This was grab the stranger next to you shakes. It was so bad. My best friend Sydney and I had one barf bag between us, and we were both just kind of had our eyes on it. We were both about to lose it. It was not good. The flight attendants were great, offering a barf bag or 5 to all of us. They were offering some complimentary sleep masks if we wanted to take a quick snooze, as if that was possible at all. We continued through the turbulent clouds for what seemed like forever, clutching each other and praying. Just talking about it's making me queasy. As our plane descended, our hopes ascended. We could finally kiss the ground and live to tell the story was over. Hi, hello, ladies and gentlemen. We unfortunately still cannot land in New Orleans today, so we will turn around and make our way toward Houston for the night. Enjoy your flight. Houston? I watched my dear leaders making new plans for us. It got around that the airport would give us rides on a bus or something and get us to New Orleans in about 6 hours' time. So after about 45 minutes on that darn plane, we landed in Houston around dinner time. We were weak, grumpy, tired, and disappointed. Us youths made ourselves at home in a quarter of the airport, flopping on the ground, while the adults negotiated a deal with the airport staff. We caught wind that we would not be going to New Orleans, but we would be staying in a hotel for the night with a complimentary supper at the restaurant in it. So we lug all of our stuff to the pickup area outside the Houston airport, where we wait for forever for our hotel taxi. We arrive at the hotel, get settled in our rooms, and congregate in the hotel restaurant. We ordered our meals, and I'm not joking, the first meal arrived 2 hours later. The service was slow, the food was mediocre, but at least we were safe and together. Bright and early the next morning, we all met in the lobby at 5 a.m. to catch our 6 a.m. flight. It was smooth sailing from there. We enjoyed some Dunkin' Donuts at the airport, which was nice, and arrived at Tulane University in New Orleans safe and sound. We spent the rest of the day exploring the French Quarter, stuffing our faces with beignets, and laughing at the way our trip started out. To put things in perspective, my family and I traveled to Italy later in the summer, which involved 13 hours on planes to travel halfway around the world. Yet it still took us longer to get to New Orleans, which is less than half the distance to cover. And it's in the same country. Despite the rocky beginning, this trip was the best I've taken with this youth group by far. Thank you to the leaders for your patience with us. Thank you to HPC for getting us there. And thank you, God, that I'm finally off that airplane.
Hi, guys. All right, so I will be talking about our normal day while in New Orleans. So for you guys that don't know, we had the trip through RHINO, which also worked through a church in New Orleans. So what we would do was we would get up super early and go get breakfast at the church. These meals were terrible. For example, one morning for breakfast, they made little waffles, and I mean, it's a small church that's trying to feed a large group of teenagers. So we had these waffles that were like whole grain, and they baked them in the oven, not a toaster, hard as a rock. You had to like dip them in yogurt to make them edible. So after we had our not so good breakfast, we headed to our work site, which was Miss Rita's house, where we would be scraping lead paint that had been on for I don't know how many years. It was way before Katrina. So we would set up when we got there, and so if the house was here, we had to make a tent coming off the house and going onto the ground, so you would catch the lead paint. So you had to spray it with a water bottle. Oh, before we did that, you went into the house, or you went and had to put on rubber gloves and a mask and an optional bodysuit so you wouldn't get lead poisoning. I don't know how many of you guys have been down south, but it is hot and humid, and you sweat profusely. So we'd go inside this tent that would also hold in the heat and spray down the paint and take a little scraper and scrape it all off. And then when you're done with that, you would have to vacuum it all up, and then you prime it and paint it, and then when you're done with that, you take off your gloves and your mask and watch the sweat pour out. So yeah, it was actually really fun. We made, okay, I know how that sounds. We made it fun. Andrew White, I don't know how many of you guys know him, he brought a little speaker that we could plug our phones into and listen to music. We'd have like dance parties and paint and talk and have fun. We also got really hungry because the breakfast was not good, so we didn't eat. So around 11, we would stop for lunch, which we had a stack lunch, and it was actually really good. We'd make sandwiches and have cookies and chips. So we'd stop at about 11 for lunch, and the ladies who owned the house would bring out every day a cooler full of drinks, Gatorade, water, cranberry juice, and that was really nice because we were all sweaty and dehydrated. There was also a porta potty across the street from the house, and you know, if you had to go tinkle, you had to go in there, and somebody had gone number 2, and it was hot outside. It got cooked basically in there, and it smelled really bad. Lorenzo figured out that if you put on the mask that we used to scrape lead paint, you couldn't smell it, so you could go in there and go to the bathroom. One day during lunch, a guy came to empty the porta potty, and we cheered and gave him a Gatorade. Our work time ended at about 4, and after that we would either head back to the dorms, do things like go get snowballs, which are basically really soft, shoot, I forgot what they're called. Anyway, what? Snow cones, yeah, really soft snow cones. Or go to Costco, like we went to Costco to get a birthday cake. And when you've been sweating all day, and we're back at the dorms, so we figured we'd all take a shower. But there's 3 people to a room for most of us kids, and only 1 shower, so it's kind of who goes when. And then it dawned on us, we're the only people in this hall, and the dorms across the hall are still open. We can shower in there all at the same time. But Lorenzo, you'd have to lock the door or somebody will walk in on you. Yeah. Dinner was at about 6. And we lived together for like 3 months, so I don't know how that happened, but 2 days together, and nothing, yeah. Dinner was at about 6, so we'd head down for dinner, and the middle schoolers would rush in there to get all their food and pile it high, and then not eat the majority of it, and then we were left scrounging for the leftovers. And then after we got back, we found a little family room, kind of hangout area that we could all hang out in and have fun together, and that is about our normal day.
I'd just like to defend myself real quick. It was locked at first, I swear, but then I forgot a towel, so I had to go back. Anyways, to go off what Lindsay was saying about the food, at dinner time, she was right. Those middle schoolers were like vultures. They would just rush in and just take it all, and we'd be left with nothing. And it was really great because towards the end of the trip, I guess the counselors or their chaperones realized that too and yelled at them, and we got to go first, and our heads were held up high, and we felt awesome. But I'm Lorenzo, by the way. I'm going to talk about some of the downtime we had, which was really great and fun. but then it's sometimes really sad and serious. And to start off with the serious stuff, the people who were hosting RHINO, they took us on these tours around, I guess it was the 9th ward, the one that mainly got hit, and just to show us the devastation and show us how big of an impact we're doing. And wow, it looked like the storm hit yesterday. It was bad, and they were showing us abandoned elementary schools, and yeah. But on a brighter note, we got to do a lot of fun things, is like go to the French Quarter, eat a lot of good food. Like, yeah, it was really good. We had beignets and gumbo, jambalaya. I think someone ordered alligator, which was fantastic as well. And we got to go to a museum, which was just great. It was a very weird museum because it was Mardi Gras, like the history and the culture of Mardi Gras on the top floor, and then Katrina on the bottom floor. So you would go we started at the top floor, and we had all this fun. We were looking at all these weird, like, dresses that they would wear with, like, weird encrusted jewels, and I don't know how they could wear it in the middle of Mardi Gras. They probably passed out halfway through. These things were thick and long-sleeve dresses. And then after you had all that fun, you would go down and just listen to these just news recordings or, like, these 911 calls, and it would just... It was a very weird contrast to go from very weird and exciting to just serious and just downright sad and terrible. And then we had a lot of fun at the dorms too. Like Lindsay said, we had this little family room where we go and have our family meetings and just hang out, have fun. We celebrated a birthday party there and had a lot of fun, made a lot of noise. I think we might have annoyed the middle schoolers at some points by making too much noise, but, you know, who cares? And then towards the end of the trip, we went home. We were all tired. We just wanted to get home. And then I guess New Orleans gave us a nice goodbye present because we got to meet Kelsey Grammer in the airport. Yeah, I know, right? Yeah, I went crazy. And yeah, so it was just kind of like our little present to leave. And so thank you, everyone, for giving us this chance. And thank you to my personal guardian angel, whoever you are. I don't know who. And yeah, thank you.